Ever had a nightmare where you just get engulfed in some abnormal mass and couldn't breathe? Well, imagine this in real life. Quite scary, right? In today's video, we are going to discuss about a topic revolving around the same threat. Prepare to get spooked. Self-replication is the process by which a system or entity autonomously reproduces or generates copies of itself, transmitting hereditary information through its molecular structure. Self-replication can be attractive for various researchers, ranging from biologists focused on uncovering the origin of life, to synthetic chemists and nanotechnologists studying synthetic machines and nanorobots. The capability of a single structure to act as a template to produce multiple copies of itself could allow the bottom-up engineering of progressively complex reaction networks and nanoarchitectures from simple building blocks. Self-replicating nanotechnology involves designing molecular machines capable of reproducing themselves. The concept of self-replicating nanotechnology, often referred to in scientific circles as molecular manufacturing, represents one of the most ambitious and polarizing frontiers of modern science. At its core, the field envisions the creation of assemblers, programmable, submicroscopic robots capable of building complex structures atom by atom, including copies of themselves. While this technology promises a post-scarcity world, it also introduces existential risks that have fueled decades of ethical and scientific debate. The theoretical foundation, von Neumann to Drexler. The intellectual heritage of self-replication dates back to mathematician John von Neumann, who in the 1940s theorized a universal assembler, a machine capable of replicating itself given the necessary raw materials and instructions. However, it was Eric Drexler who brought this concept to the nanoscale in his 1986 book, Engines of Creation. Drexler proposed a world where molecular machines could manipulate individual atoms with the precision of a factory assembly line. In this model, self-replication is the scaling mechanism. Since a single nanobot would take an eternity to build anything visible to the human eye, the solution is exponential growth. One robot becomes two become four, and soon, billions of assemblers are working in parallel to create anything from medical implants to spacecraft. The promises of molecular manufacturing. If successfully realized, self-replicating nanotechnology would fundamentally decouple economic wealth from physical labor and resource scarcity. The potential benefits are vast. Medicine, nanomedicine, could involve autonomous devices that replicate within the bloodstream to identify and dismantle pathogens, repair cellular damage, or even reverse the effects of aging. Environmental restoration. Nanobots could be programmed to filter carbon dioxide from the atmosphere or remove microplastics from the oceans, replicating as needed to cover vast geographic areas. Manufacturing. We could move from subtractive manufacturing, cutting material away, to bottom-up construction, creating materials with diamond-like strength and zero waste. Feng Zhou at New York University and his colleagues created the tiny machines, which are just 100 nanometers across, using 4 strands of DNA. The nanorobots are held in a solution with these DNA-strand raw materials, which they arrange into copies of themselves one at a time by using their own structure as a scaffold. The team didn't respond to a request for comment, but say in their paper that their nanobots are capable of exponential reproduction. Handy agrees that this process is unlikely to run away uncontrolled, but says that it is not entirely without risk. The trouble is we don't know everything that we perhaps ought to know about protein folding and 3D structures in cells. There could be something that we miss. So there's always that kind of uncertainty. You think you can build safeguards in, but they're not necessarily a guarantee that it will be safe. With this fascinating emerging technology comes a brisk risk, which in 1986 scientist Eric Drexler coined as the gray goo phenomenon in his book The Engines of Creation. If programmed to build copies of themselves and lacking restrictions, these nanobots could consume the entire biosphere, disassembling all life and structural materials to replicate exponentially. Ecophagy, this term, meaning eating the environment, refers to the catastrophic consumption of Earth's ecosystem by these machines. This term has gained quite a traction with relation to the self-replicating nanotechnology. Imagine such a replicator floating in a bottle of chemicals, making copies of itself. The first replicator assembles a copy in 1,000 seconds. The 2 replicators then build 2 more in the next 1,000 seconds. The 4 build another 4, and the 8 build another 8. At the end of 10 hours, there are not 36 new replicators, but over 68 billion. In less than a day, they would weigh a ton. In less than 2 days, they would outweigh the Earth. In another 4 hours, they would exceed the mass of the Sun and all the planets combined, if the bottle of chemicals hadn't run dry long before. Though masses of uncontrolled replicators need not be gray or gooey, the term gray goo emphasizes that replicators able to obliterate life might be less inspiring than a single species of crabgrass. They might be superior in an evolutionary sense, but this need not make them valuable. According to Drexler, the term was popularized by an article in science fiction magazine Omni, which also popularized the term nanotechnology in the same issue. Drexler says arms control is a far greater issue than gray goo nanobugs. 7. Drexler describes gray goo in Chapter 11 of Engines of Creation. Early assembler-based replicators could beat the most advanced modern organisms. Plants with leaves no more efficient than today's solar cells could outcompete real plants, crowding the biosphere with an inedible foliage. Tough, omnivorous bacteria could outcompete real bacteria. They could spread like blowing pollen, replicate swiftly, and reduce the biosphere to dust in a matter of days. Dangerous replicators could easily be too tough, small, and rapidly spreading to stop, at least if we made no preparation. We have trouble enough controlling viruses and fruit flies. We still do have a better news. Most experts consider this a low probability, worst-case thought experiment rather than an imminent threat. Modern nanotechnology focuses on controlled environments, and creating such self-sustaining biovores would require extreme, purposeful effort rather than a simple accident. So you can stick to your imaginary scary nightmare for a while. This is the 10-minute science.